What's going on, everybody? Johnny TCG back with another video. Today I'm going to be running some games on Starter Deck 10 Red and Purple Luffy. This is a list that was mainly inspired by one that won a tournament in Japan. The biggest thing to note is that it does not run OP07 Purple Luffy the 10 drop that lets you skip your opponent's turn. I think this card's great, but it does feel bad when you have to KO all your characters if you have a decent board when you're playing it out. So let's get into the gameplay. First up, we got a game against Jewelry Bonnie from OP07. I'm going to start it off with a Nami search. There aren't a lot of targets for Nami, but in my testing, it seems to almost always hit. That's one thing that may be reconsidered about this deck. I don't have a clear turn 2 play, and so I'm just gonna give 3 Don to my leader and swing 9 at lead. If this was a normal leader, I would do 6 and then give the 3 Don to Nami to swing for 5, but with Bonnie's effect, that's not possible. Leader swinging in my Nami. Little surprised by that, and then they use the baby 5 searcher and actually miss. So they pass it back to me, 5 Don. I'm kind of debating here. I could go Bon Clay for a little bit of a faster ramp. I could go Zoro Joro and have a body for next turn. And I decided to go that the Zoro Joro route. We see I swing 8 at the baby 5. Just getting it out of the way. Don't want to let it get more value. They play down the Basil Hawkins and pass. One great thing about this leader is that you'll often see your opponents pass without attacking just because they don't have a Don to build a board and swing into it. Give a Don to Zoro Joro, swing for 5. They eat it, and Zoro Joro's effect lets me ramp 1 Don. Then Luffy's ability lets me ramp another Don. So I'm able to play out Monkey D. Dragon, swing for 9 at lead, and then using Monkey D. Dragon's effect, I get to add 2 Don to one of my leaders or characters, and so I swing with Luffy for 8. They block with Basil and then give it a 2k to keep it alive. That was a really solid turn. They do have a lot of cards in hand, but I feel like I've got a pretty solid board right now. 6k at Zoro Joro. I would really like to keep this just as it's another swing for me, but I don't want to invest the counter and that would be required to save it. Now I'm at 10 Don. I'm going to swing first with Dragon just because of the ability. I know one of my characters is going to get rested, and so for example, if I played out the Shanks first, then swung with Dragon, they would have rested the Shanks. Or maybe they wouldn't have rested the Shanks. They would still probably rest the Luffy, actually. But it makes sense to swing swing first without playing anything. Then I'm going to play the 10 drop Shanks from OP06 and KO the Cavendish. That Cavendish's ability that when attacking, restand 2 Don is active is absolutely huge, so I had to get it off the board. They swing at me for 7, I give them a 2k, and then play down the Doflamingo. Debating on how I want to order this. I know I'll be swinging with the Shanks, and I won't be fearing another Doflamingo. Because I am going to throw down probably Eustace Captain Kidd, the 7 drop from Starter Deck 10. And if that's the case, then even if they rest that and throw down another Doflamingo, up there. I really am liking my hand here. I think that there is an argument to be made about putting down Queen and Bon Clay, because then the next turn my Bon Clay can swing for 12,000 copying Doflamingo, or Doflamingo's only 10 I think. But regardless, that Bon Clay will be huge. But I decided against it. I really like Eustace Captain Kid in this deck. Being able to boost my leader up by 1,000 on defense, I think is amazing. Because it's a 7k leader now, and it would require 2 Dawn commitment for their leader to swing into it. They swing 7 with Basil Hawkins. I could take this. I haven't taken any life yet, but I'll just give them a 1k. The 10k I will take, and I get a Nami Searcher. And then they hit me with another Doflamingo. Multiple Doflamingos in a row is so oppressive. Not being able to swing again with my dragon and leader really stinks, but I do have another Eustace Captain Kid from starter deck 10 that'll help boost me up by 1,000. I'm going to play the Nami Search, and I was really just looking for a Radical Beam or a 2k. I decided to go with the Radical Beam. I'll give 1 Dawn to one of my Eustace Captain Kids and swing for 9, then use its ability to ramp Luffy up another 1,000. So now on my opponent's turn, my leader will be at 8,000, which is huge. I hit him for 1. We wait, no trigger. And then I end the turn. I have 2 Dawn up for a Radical Beam. I have a 2k, a 1k, and I get another Radical Beam. I decide to use the trigger effect to give Luffy another 1,000. And so then I'm able to get out of this next Doflamingo attacked with just a 2k. And now they play the Eustace Captain Kid from OP01. This card is so annoying. They're going to rest it. And so I need to get rid of it before I can go for game. Now, I do have a lot of big bodies on board. So I'm not too worried about killing it this turn. But on the clapback, if I can't kill them this turn, they're going to have a lot of bodies to go after me. Give 1 Dawn to Shanks. Swing at it for 5. They probably will have the counter. And they do, but that got a ton of cards out of hand. They used their leader ability to rest Monkey D. Dragon, which really stinks. But I knew that was gonna happen. That's something you just have to keep in mind when playing against Bonnie. Swing 11 into Kid with into Kid with one of my kids. Using leader ability, I can ramp it Dawn. I'll give 3 Dawn to this other Captain Kid. Swing into their Captain Kid and minus a Dawn to win the game. They didn't have enough counter to save it here, and then I just would have went. Even if they let it die, I would have gone. Let's see, 8. This would be at 8,000. 9, 10. Yes, they wouldn't have been able to stop my attack from Luffy. I wouldn't have gone all in. I would have kept 2 open for the Rad Beam. But yes, it would have been over either way. And as you can see, there's a crazy glitch going on right now. But really fun game. Bonnie's a fun leader to play against, I feel. Next up, we got a game against Rob Lucci from OP07. I've got to admit, this is one of the tougher matchups I find myself in, regardless of what deck I am playing. Start off with turn 1, playing the Nami, and then taking Gum Gum Jet Gatling. There's not a ton to hit with the Nami, but it seems to hit almost every time for me. So, play another one, and I'm going to take the Rad Beam this time. I'm feeling like I'm going to need a lot of defense, but a 2k wouldn't have been bad either. Swing for 8,000, and they get to trigger an Ace Lobby out of life, which is a really strong stage. And they're going to swing 6,000 with their leader. And I am going to let it hit because I do want to play queen next turn. And then they play out EB01 Brook to KO one of my Namis. I'm going to play queen and use his effect. Queen's effect is really good, but when I'm trying to ramp, it can feel bad sometimes. They block out of my 6,000 swing. And they are on their 6th Dawn turn. That Brook from EB01 is very strong. It's only 3 cost, but on play and when attacking, you get to -1 from one of your opponent's characters, and then KO one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 0. Helmeppo and stage brings my queen down low enough to be in range of the Brook, and so not only do I get to not use it, they get a good swing on life, and I counter out of those. 6th Dawn up. I don't really feel like I have any great plays. I'm going to swing 6,000 in a Brook to just get that off the field. Maybe I could have went to leader there just to apply more pressure. And then I'm going to put out a Eustace Captain Kidd from OP07. I really like this blocker, but in this build of Red Purple Luffy, I don't run a ton of cards that minus Dawn from my field, and therefore I don't always see the benefit of its effect. But it is a solid 5-drop 6k blocker regardless. They Dawn up on their leader and swing at me for 6. And it feels so bad to have to block out of this. In hindsight, I think I should have Gum Jet Gatling out of it, because now I am telegraphing to them that I do not have any counter in hand. So I think there would be a good reason to do things differently. They're going to add 6 Dawn to Helmeppo and just swing at me. And now I have to use the Rad... Oh, I don't even use the Rad Beam, which I also think that might have been a mistake. I'm going to play Monkey D. Dragon from OP07, a great card that I love. I misunderstand its effect and try to give 1 Dawn to Nami and 1 to Luffy. So I'd give 2 to Nami to get rid of that Helmeppo. I do not need another big swing from Helmeppo. And then I'm going to swing 6 with leader. They block out of it. And then 9 from Monkey D. Dragon. It's rush, and on play you get to add 2 rested Dawn up to one of your leader characters. I'm not worried about any attacks this turn, but what I really can see happening is them dropping 8 cost Sabo or Stussy from OP07 to KO my dragon, and then that's going to feel bad. $6k at my leader. I am going to 1k out of this, I think. That Zoro is not going to do much this late in the game. And then they have 8 Dawn up, which would be perfect for that Sabo. But instead, they add 4 to that Spandam. I'll counter out of that with Queen. And then they're actually able to get a Lucci off to take out my Nami and Monkey D. Dragon. That feels really bad. I do not feel comfortable right now. I did play a Whitebeard and am boosted to 8,000 for this turn. I do think that that Whitebeard will not stay on the field for very long. With 7 cards in hand, that Lucci definitely will have the removal it needs to get rid of it. And now I'm looking at a board of a 6k, and I believe Stussy is a 9k. I'll play down Whitebeard because I really don't have much other choice, and swing at lead. It hits, but With how many cards they have in hand, I cannot imagine they're feeling stressed at all. This is an instance where maybe some more rushers in this deck would be better, as I'm able to apply more pressure to the leader. They're going to use Ice Age to bring down Newgate by 5, and then Stage to minus another 2. Leader swing for 8,000 to bring it down another 1, so it is definitely in range of being KO'd by even a Rob Lucci. Or Brook. I take the hit from lead, and then I'm going to block out the Rob Lucci attack with a 2K. And then I was expecting them to go all in here with Stussy, but they don't, and so I need to use counter. Again, this feels bad. I know that at this point, I know that the game's over for me, basically. There's no way for me to remove the Stussy, and they can just put everything on it and then swing at lead. If you saw any bad misplays in this match, please let me know. I could really use some tips against this matchup because, like I said before, I've just been struggling. Finally, we got a game against Green Yellow Yamato. I'm going to take first, looking for that Nami that I can play. And then I'm going to take a Zoro Joro, play it next turn, and try to ramp the following turn. That's a good turn 1 to turn 2 play for Red Purple Luffy. They play down the Otama, get an Izo from OP01, and then they play the Momonosuke, but they can't search with it yet. I'm going to swing 6 into lead, and then I'm going to play down the Zoro Joro. If I didn't have a Zoro Joro, I would have just done 6 in the lead, or I would have done 5 in the lead with Nami, and then 6 in the lead with leader. They've got 4 down up. I'm expecting them to use 1 down to search with Momonosuke and then swing big with leader. They don't do that, however. They play down Izo and swing 6k at the Zoro Joro. Well, it feels bad letting the Zoro Joro go without getting its effect off. I'm not going to waste resources saving it. This time 8 at lead, and then play down another Zoro Joro. No triggers yet. I'm wondering if this build they're playing even runs a lot of triggers. Using Otama Searcher, they reveal You Can Be My Samurai from OP01. I love that card. I play it in my OP07 Perona build. And then they do the same thing. They drop Izo, rest Zoro Joro, and then swing with lead. And then they're going to play the You Can Be My Samurai. It's interesting to note that they still have not searched with that Momonosuke yet. I've got a couple of options here, but I think that I'm going to go with the Eustace Captain Kidd 7-drop from starter deck 10. Boost my leader up by 1,000 and then swing 7 at lead. I'm definitely a little hesitant every time I swing because I'm worried about that Kikunojo trigger or any of the other triggers that yellow decks tend to run. I'm feeling pretty comfortable right now, though, as I'm at 7,000. I have about 5,000 in counter in my hand, and then I've got a big body on board that I don't think they have any way to deal with. They're going to play a Hiyori combo to get out 5-drop Momonosuke, and they're going to put Otama back into their life. And then they're going to play another Hiyori and a Yamato from OP01. This is the double attack banish Yamato. Using leader ability, I get to draw 1 Don. And here I'm debating on what I should play. With 9 Don, I'm at a little bit of an awkward spot. I wish I had 1 more so I could play Shanks and get rid of that Yamato. I'm going to go with the Mr. 2 Bon Clay. Lets me ramp a Don as active. Swing with Eustace Captain Kidd at lead for 8,000, using his ability to give 1,000 to my leader. Then I'm going to swing with leader. I'm expecting them to block and counter out of this, or just counter out of this in general. And they do. First, they give me the Hiyori to get up to 7,000, and then they have to give me one more card. And they give me the Onami. Happy to see the Onami get out of their hand and into their trash. And then for 6 Don, I'm going to play Sangoro. This card is pretty interesting. It's just a vanilla, 6 cost, 8,000, that I didn't really consider running in my build until I saw that the Japanese list that is the inspiration for this list running it. It's pretty interesting. It does have counter. I think that you can definitely justify running other cards instead of it. But when you have 6 Don up and no other better plays, I do think it's a pretty solid card to get on the board. Here, I'm expecting maybe a Hody Jones or a Doflamingo 10 drop, or maybe even Eustace Captain Kidd from OP01. They don't. I'm not feeling too threatened right now. With no blockers up, they could hypothetically don up on their character Yamato and swing big at my leader. I don't think that would be a bad strategy. They use Momonosuke to draw, I believe, of the 5-drop Momonosuke, and then they use You Can Be My Samurai to draw 2 more cards. They're going to swing 8 at, let's see, leader. 8 at leader, I can handle that. 2k counter. And then there's nothing else they can do. I really like my position right now. I'm going to swing 8 at lead. You can make the argument that maybe I should have swung into Yamato, but since I am going to play the 10 cost Shanks, I am just going to KO that Yamato anyway. You can make the argument that maybe I should swing at the Yamato, get more counter on a hand. I don't know if it really matters in the end. I'm thinking about what the best way to order this is. And I believe it's Shanks, then leader ability, Shanks, and then swing with Captain Kidd, and then use leader ability and swing with Luffy. So I do think I'm doing this wrong. I don't think it really matters that much. The results will be the same. I let Yamato go. And so I'm thinking I'm going to swing 8,000 at life, use Kidd's ability to return Dawn, boost Luffy up by 1,000. They're going to counter out of this with one Otama and then another Otama. And then I'm going to use leader ability, ramp back up to 10, and play the 10 cost Shanks. I'm feeling so comfortable here. I've got 4k counter in my hand. My leader is 7,000. I've got a board full of strong characters. They're going to swing with Izo into Bon Clay, I assume, but then they kind of think, what's the point of resting Izo? And then they just play out 9 cost Zoro from OP06. I absolutely love this card. I love the art on it. I love its ability. And it strikes a little bit of fear in me, but I think I might actually be able to go for game here. And I do have the 5-drop Eustace Captain Kidd in my hand, so between the counter in my hand, making my leader a 7k, and a blocker, I'm pretty sure I'll be able to survive. 9 at lead, and they let it hit with Sangoro. I'm going to swing 12 at Yamato. They block. I'm thinking about how I should order this and what kind of Dawn distribution I should do. That is always one of the hardest parts of the game for me, is thinking about, in the moment, just how much I need to give each character for the best case scenario. I'm going to swing 9 with Kid, using its ability. Luffy's now plus 1,000. We'll see if they let this hit. They do have 5 cards in their hand. This would require 3 character cards, or if they have other events, then they can get out of it. They use the 0 cost event. You're the one who should disappear, and discard an Otama as well. I decided to put on 3 Don to Nami just to poke for 5. I'm expecting them to probably block out of this. Or if they don't, that might tell me that they have no counter in hand. And the original plan was to throw down 5-drop Useless Captain Kid blocker. But since they let that one hit, I'm just going to throw it all on Luffy. I don't think this is a do or die situation for me. I think I'd be able to survive another round or another turn. And it goes through. I do think they probably should have used the you're the one who should disappear on that Nami hit. I'm not sure what their thoughts were there. It would be interesting to hear from their perspective. If anyone in the comments knows what they may have been thinking, I would appreciate it. It doesn't really matter. I've got a ton of counter in life that I would have gotten, and then their only option next turn would either be swing big with their characters, which would not have been able to kill me, or drop Doflamingo, which would be able to delay me, certainly, but I don't think it would be the end of the world for me. Here's the deck list I've been running. You see Monkey D. Dragon, one of my favorite cards in the deck. One area which I think this deck could see maybe a little improvement would be maybe adding some rushers. Here I'm going to highlight Monkey D. Luffy from Starter Deck 1. This 5-drop, when you add 2 Don to it, it's unblockable. And then this 10-drop Luffy with Rush from Starter Deck 10 is also an awesome card. You don't see it run a ton because it can be a little weird. For 10 Don, it's going to be your entire turn. But 10 Don, Rush, if your opponent activates a blocker, you get to KO one of their characters of 8,000 or less. And then here we're just going to look at some other candidates to put in the deck. Rush Zoro, the 3-drop is a good idea. Kid and Killer, I think that one definitely deserves some consideration. And then this Sanji, 6 cost for 6k Rush isn't great, but it does have the 1k counter, which is pretty good for this deck. So I think that a lot of these cards you can consider. I had a ton of fun playing with this deck. I'm definitely going to make more videos of it, so like, comment, and subscribe for more.